Hey, it's your girl, Shalon, and I have a very, very, very special guest. This is a dream because you are one of the individuals that I had in my mind when I was thinking about creating this platform. And today I have Congresswoman Lisa Blunt, Rochester, in the building.
Oh my goodness, Shalon, I'm so excited to be with you. So excited. Thank you for the honor.
Oh, wow. No, thank you for the honor. I really appreciate it. And I just hope that we're just able to have a great conversation, girls chat about all things that are going on with you and the country and you as a woman and so on and so forth. So, what is going on with Congresswoman these days?
Oh my goodness, we are very, very busy. As you know, this is my second term, and first of all, I was honored, and there's an overwhelming feeling that first election when once all the votes were counted and we found out that we had won, and made double history for Delaware as the first woman and the first person of color to represent Delaware in Congress. This time we came into a different scenario. First of all, it wasn't the first time for me, but it was equally as high in terms of the feeling of excitement, the feeling of purpose. I got in, and we are now in the majority. The Democrats are now in the majority, so it's also a different level of work and energy and excitement. The most diverse Congress, I would assume, I have to say, in the history of our country. I mean, even when you look at the Democratic caucus, to see so many women, and then, first two Muslims, first two Native American women, the youngest women in Congress. I mean, it is incredible. So for me, I started off with a vision of two things. One was strengthening our economy, and the second was bringing people together. The whole issue of jobs and people being able to live their purpose was important to me then, and it still is. And so I this time got on the Energy and Commerce Committee, which is one of the most exclusive committees in Congress. And I'm working on healthcare, which was my number one choice for subcommittees.
Oh, really? Okay.
Environment and climate change, which is so important to Delaware and to our country and the world.
Right.
Consumer protection and commerce, because again, we want to protect folks from, to make sure they have clean air, clean water, but also good products, product safety, and commerce. It goes back to jobs. And then my last subcommittee is energy. So,
oh my goodness, what is that, like 9?
It's crazy because there are 6 subcommittees on this one committee, and I'm on 4 out of the 6. So I think there are maybe 2 of us out of 40 people, something like that, that are on 4 out of the 6 subcommittees. So we got a lot of work to do. But, and we're ready for it.
So when you think about your first term and you talk about your second term, like that first time, did you even think about it as, oh my God, I'm going to be the first woman, or even above that, I'm going to be the first woman or black woman? Did any of that cross your mind at that time?
The reality is, I think first of all of us would love to get away with the firsts.
Right.
Like we wish, we want to be at a day where there's not the first. And while I was running, I thought about the significance of it, the weight of it, that it wasn't just me that I was doing this for. And at the same time, I had to run a little differently than other people in this state have run in the past. I mean, some of the things that my predecessors didn't have to worry about, I had to think about and balance.
Such as?
Just the people's perceptions. When I would walk into a room, there would be a different level of expectation. Sometimes people underestimate you, sometimes people overestimate you. But I think there was a different level of expectation and perceptions. I think even how I chose to run, I had some people who said to me, you need to knock on every door in this state, and then I've had other people say, you need to be able to get on television. And really what I had to do was try to do some of everything.
Right.
because it had never been done before. So part of the reason why I say it's so important to, and that's why your platform, what you're doing, is so important, because there's a saying, you got to see it to be it. You know, and so when you're doing something that hasn't been done before, you start reaching out to places to try to find, you know, well, maybe I could take a little bit of this, I could take a little bit of that. Like, how did she do it in that state?
Right.
Okay, Delaware's different. How do you do it in Delaware? And so part of the reason why I'm so glad you have this platform, part of the reason why I wanted to be here with you, is for people to see me and to see, no matter, you know, whether you are a woman, whether you are African American,
Right.
maybe you are, I was over 50. I had never run for anything before.
Wow.
So there are a lot of people sitting out there that are 50, 60, maybe 70, 80 years old. It's never too late to do what you were put on this earth to do. So, you know, so I wanted to be an example to them as well. I was widowed, you know, so I wanted people to see themselves in me, and I wanted to represent. I wanted to do a good job. So that was part of what I carried with me throughout that first race. I wasn't thinking, oh my God, I got to do this, you know, because we're going to make double history. It's like, no, these issues touch everybody,
right.
The ones that I ran on. And I have a perspective that I can bring to the table. You know, even as a mom whose child was stopped by the police, you know, I have a different perspective.
Right.
As Secretary of Labor, I have a different perspective. I was the CEO of the Urban League. So I brought all of those pieces to the running, and I bring all of those pieces when I go to Washington. And that's why we had a saying, when Lisa goes to Washington, we all go to Washington. that was the saying, and I stand by it. We all go to Washington. Part of it is creating systems, having a strong team, and then just really trying to stay connected to Delaware. You know, that is really important, because when we hear from the voice of Delaware, then that helps inform the kind of questions I ask, how I approach the witnesses, you know, what bills we put forward. I mean, we had a bill, an amendment about 2 weeks ago, where I was on the floor of the House at 1:30 in the morning, and it was focused on the fact that we have a shortage of primary care docs in our state, and especially like in our federally qualified health centers. I had another amendment that came from a person who probably, you know, was like, we need help for veterans, and he was 100% disabled, and he told us about a problem he had where the Department of Defense will allow for space available. They call it Space A. Like if you have if that disabled vet wanted to travel on a plane, but they didn't allow their caregiver or their spouse, and because of a constituent from Delaware, we put that proposal forward. The bill hasn't even passed all the way through to the president yet, but the Department of Defense is already taking a look at changing that policy.
Wow.
That came from Delaware. So again, like, the balance is really the help of my team. The balance is the use of technology. The balance is also trying to take care of myself. That's a big part too. I mean, that's another lesson for everybody out there listening. Sometimes you got to be gentle with yourself, and you got to try to take care of yourself.
So what do you do to take care of yourself?
So first of all, I sort of have like these routines that work for me. When I'm really, really, really good, when I'm really vigilant, I have this like yoga meditation DVD that is like 20 minutes. It's AM, PM yoga, 20 minutes. And if I'm really good, I like just roll out of bed and do like this AM, PM yoga. I love gospel music. It in the morning, it gets me pumped. It gets me ready. And I usually put my playlist on shuffle. Okay. Because I'm like, look, give me what I need today.
Exactly. Okay.
As I go through the day, I try to be conscious. Like, make sure you eat, you know, like an apple, a green machine smoothie. You know, like, we try to make sure I get food throughout the day. But at night is the time when I really try to, number one, I love baths. I tell people, I'm like, the old Calgon take me away. It is like $5 maybe for a box of that. It's not like going to the spa or it's just right at home, light a candle, just kind of like decompress. I love lavender, so I'll put some Epsom salts, lavender Epsom salts, and And at night, before I go to bed, I spray my pillow with a little pillow mist, like
Really?
little lavender, and put on some peaceful music, and read and try to decompress. I think that being taking care of yourself, no matter what it is, whether you run, whether you, like in the morning, I love, even if it's 5 minutes, I stop and just try to look up at nature, try to take in what is there and be grateful. Those things really have served me well. They really have, you know. So I'm like, whatever it is that you need to do, you need to do it. And you also need to figure out what is your kryptonite. What are the
things that you need to say?
Yes. What sucks your energy?
Yeah.
That could be people. There's it's like, I love you, but I can only take this much of you.
Right.
That could be the, like, for me, I got to be conscientious of what I eat. I love M&Ms with peanuts. I love chocolate. I love cookies. And I have to be very conscious of what I put in my body. I don't love to sweat, so you know, when other people are exercising, I'm like, oh, but I love to dance. So it's like, figure out, you know, take a minute to inventory yourself, and then do those things.
And figure out like what works for you. Yeah,
exactly. Because my journey, my pillow mist might not help you. It helps me.
So speaking of, you know, the climate that we're in right now, and we have just come off of a week of debates.
Yes.
Tell me did you get a chance to watch those?
Yes.
And what were your takeaways from that?
I think, first of all, my biggest takeaway was, I can speak for the Democrats, right, because that's who I saw in the debates. We have some great candidates and a lot of great ideas. To me, the purpose of debates are to get those ideas out there,
right,
have people talk, try to understand and know who these candidates are. I think in this set of debates, it was really a challenge because you got 20 people and they have to give 60-second answers. And when you're dealing with issues as big as healthcare, it is really
right.
It is really hard to give a 60-second answer. And so, for what it was, I think it was good. It was a good,
like a good intro.
Yeah, you know, like starting on the finish line. You know, you gotta. I felt like it was the not the finish line, the starting line. I thought it was sort of like, you know, them like saying, all right, off to the races, and there you go. Because before that, it was sort of people were all around the country, but this was the first time you saw everybody standing there. And like I said, I felt like people did a really good job. You know, I'm supporting the vice president. You know, and part of it for me is not just knowing that he has been of service to this country, but I got an opportunity before he decided to run to talk to him.
Oh, wow.
And initially it was going to be a 15-minute meeting, and then they said, oh, it could be a 30-minute meeting, and it ended up being 2.5 hours.
Oh, my goodness.
And
wow.
In the course of that conversation, what was clear to me is that this was a person who felt that we are in a time in our country like we've never seen before. The division, the fact that people who were our allies are now around the world are now questioning, are we friends or not? Like, you know, we have a president who's now more friendly with the enemies or perceived enemies, or, you know, and in that conversation, what I saw was someone who felt the need to step up and serve again. And so I know for myself, I decided to run for office after the passing of my husband. And at a time when it was probably, my daughter Alyssa said, Mom, you picked your lowest low to go for the highest high. And I feel like for the vice president, you know, while he's been through a lot of things personally, his love for our country and for the people of this country and of the world was stronger than the desire to you know, watch from the sidelines. And
Right.
so I, wholeheartedly came out in support. And, like I said, this is the beginning of a journey. And I think we are fortunate that we have him and other people
Right.
willing to step up, because it's not easy. And I know it personally. It is not
Right.
easy to run.
So what was your first debate? Like how?
Whew. Let me tell you, first of all, I videotaped myself beforehand because I didn't want to forget what that was like. And I was so nervous going into it, because here I am, never been in a debate in my life, and I'm standing up here, it was like a 6-way primary. And I'll never forget, I'm in that auditorium of this school, and there was a clock in front of me. And I kid you not, that clock was ticking backwards. Like, it was the longest night of my life. And afterwards, like, people were commenting on blogs, like, one person said, she looked like a deer in the headlights. I was a deer in the headlights. I was scared to death.
Yeah.
I had supporters. One supporter actually said to me, "You embarrassed me." I was like,
oh no.
Wow. I was like, you get up on that stage and
Right,
try it.
right.
And so part of it is building the muscle. Like, it is a skill, but that's a moment in time. And while there were people in that room that night that said, "Oh, you didn't do well," or whatever, they knew my heart. They knew the work, that the record of accomplishments.
Right.
And they also knew that I had a vision for our country and a desire to bring people together and for us to thrive. They knew that. And so, you know what, I said, okay, that one's done. And I'm getting ready for the next.
So you literally just had to dust your shoulders off and just keep it moving?
Yes, that is exactly it. You dust your shoulders off like Jay-Z, like you just had to dust and keep it moving, because and again, you got to remember why. This isn't about me, it's not about him. It is for something bigger and greater. So it's like, as long as your intention is right, as long as you know why you're doing what you're doing,
right,
and that you see, you just keep going. You keep your eyes on the prize. You just keep going.
So why politics though? Like, I remember hearing a story of writing down, where you want to be in your journal. Why do this, Congresswoman? Why?
That, the funny thing is, I was interviewed by a kid yesterday, and we were talking about, who I was as a kid. And I think when I go back, I was born in the 60s. So I'm a kid of the 60s and 70s and 80s, and it came from an era where there was a civil rights movement, there was the Black Power movement, there was the women's movement. And so I came from a family that was always very much engaged. My dad has his master's in social work from Rutgers. My sister has a master's in social work from Rutgers. My daughter has a master's in social work. There's this, my grandmothers were always very involved in their communities, and I think part of it for me is that public service or politics, it is about the voice. It is about giving voice to the voiceless. It is about people having the ability to live their best lives and to create communities and a country and a world that we aspire to see.
Right.
And so to me, that's why I'm so interested in creating a pipeline of people after me. And while I'm here, that's why I support other candidates. That's why I want young people to be engaged, and I want older people to not feel like I'm done.
Right.
You still breathing. You still have opportunity
right,
to do something. And so, for me, it is the chance to really make life better, to make a change, to be engaged. And I've always felt that. And you mentioned the journal that I had. And so when my husband passed away unexpectedly, the crazy thing is I just didn't know what to do with my life next. I had been so blessed to serve in different positions in our state, and had lived in different countries, but in that moment I wasn't clear, like, why am I still here? And one of my friends from college said, Lisa, you're a writer. I had not seen her, Diane, I had not seen her. She was my roommate in 30, 40 years. And she wrote to me on Facebook, inboxed me, and said, God gave me a message for you that your work is not done. And I said, I know, I'm still here, but I just don't know what that work is. And she said, you're a writer. Go look in your journals. And I just started going back and looking at old entries in my journals. And I found in June of 2000 a journal entry about why I couldn't run for Congress. All the reasons why I couldn't. At that time, I was in a 20-year marriage that had a lot of ups and downs, and I just felt like I can't do that right now. I felt like I didn't have the money, like literally, like most people, I was like in serious debt, and there were like all these reasons why I couldn't in this journal entry. And then it was like the handwriting almost changed. I have a picture of it. It's like the handwriting of that journal entry changed. And it was almost like an answer back to me saying, just bloom where you're planted. Just do what you need to do right here, right now. Whether, the job that I was in, making sure my kids were okay, and trust. And at that moment, I just started opening my eyes and seeing other people who were going through either painful situations. I mean, we know they were calling Wilmington names, talking about, I don't even want to use the word,
right now,
it was about the shootings. Right. There were people who had lost their homes during the economic downturn or their jobs, and I just heard people's stories, and I saw other people, and I decided I don't have anything to lose and everything to give, and I'm going to run. And I think sometimes we're held back. Like years ago when I wrote in that journal entry, I remember people in the different other jobs I had saying stuff like, oh, she's just doing this because she's going to run for this or she's going to run for that. And the intention was not about the position. The intention was to be in a position to do things and to get things done.
Right.
And so you start from that kid in the 60s and work it all the way up to today, and it is the opportunity to be that voice for Delawareans. It is the opportunity to create an atmosphere where people can live their true purpose. When people have jobs, it's a different feeling, but you want them to have the job that allows them to both live their purpose and also be able to support themselves.
Right.
So I now get to be in the room. The play Hamilton, they say you want to be in the room where it happens. I'm bringing all of Delaware in the room where it happens. And I love it. I love it. And it's brought my joy back. Being of service right now, as hard as it is, that's when you really need it, not when it's easy. Right. This has brought my joy back to be of service right now. So
that's good.
Yeah.
Bring the joy back. So when we think about, I just want to take it down just a little bit and just woman to woman.
Yes.
You talked about being a widow. You talked about your marriage having its highs and having its lows, and choosing not to do something that you felt like you could do, but choosing to work on the relationship, I assume. And then you got you have 2 children.
Yes.
So, take me back to, the lows of the lows, and how did Lisa, how did you make that climb back up?
Yeah. I have my faith, and I think that's why when Charles, my late husband, passed, it was so hard, because it like shook the core of who I am. But throughout, I guess part of my message to is men, women, all of us,
right.
There are these like trials and tribulations, so that first marriage, I got married really young. I was 20 when I got married, which is incredibly young now that I look back on it. It was like, no wonder my dad's face broke out. I mean, it was like I was really young. And so, from 20 to 40, I was married, and in a marriage that, like I said, had its ups and downs. I think a lot of times we see each other, but we don't see all of each other. We don't know each other's real stories. That's why, again, your platform is so important. We don't see, when that person went through challenges, whether it was infidelity or in a relationship, or things that you just, you don't talk about.
Right.
And, for me, there were, I don't know why just now India Arie flashed into my head. India Arie is one of my favorite artists. And at the time going through my marriage, the first marriage, part of it was an exploration of learning to love myself and realizing my own worth and why, and asking myself, okay, why am I still here in this relationship? And I think that's why when being the writer and writing down these things in my journal and looking back, even when that marriage ended, I wrote a list of all the great gifts that I received from that relationship.
Really?
I wrote down all of the lessons that I learned about myself from that relationship. I think one of the most powerful things any of us can do is, in addition to love, is forgiveness. And so there was forgiveness from the relationship, and there was forgiveness even of myself. So I guess that's one message that I would share with people, that when you are able to do that, it frees you. And I was open and I was ready for new love. And so when I met my second husband, we had heard of each other for over 20 years, but just never met. We were at the University of Delaware our sophomore year at the same time.
Wow.
Then we were at my best
Isn't
friend's.
that funny how it works that way?
Yeah. We were at my best friend's 40th birthday party in a room together and
Wow.
didn't really meet that night. And when it was time, it was time. And, it was a beautiful, beautiful union. And I'm eternally grateful for that. But the reality is, you're going to have ups and you're going to have downs. And, for me, part of it was just the grace of being held during those times when I was really low, and knowing that I had love and family and friends surrounding me. And I think that's another message for people. Just be there for people, but how they need it. Like, there were times I just didn't want anybody to talk to me. Just, you can be here, but don't say anything. There were other times where it was like people wanted to know, well, they would say, let me know if there's anything I can do. But then I had other friends, they didn't ask. They came over with a pot of spaghetti and a bottle of wine, and it was like, that's what I needed. And so, having people be there during those ups and downs that are positive and that fill you up, that really made a big difference for me.
Were you angry or bitter when you talk about, leaving, one marriage that was 20 years, questioning your value, then you find the love of your life, and then to have him taken unexpectedly? Like, I think about Lauren London and Nipsey Hussle, and just that unexpected, tragedy. How do you reconcile that?
You know, that's really powerful too, because I think now that you bring up that analogy, I mean, you think she was with somebody who was the love of her life, who was doing incredible things in the community, and young, like taken at such a young age. And for me, there is this ball of emotions, you know, like one minute you're grateful, the next minute you're mad. And for me, that's why I said it tested my faith, because Charles died September 25th, and we had that month before, August, we had gone to church together. We had, you know, we were here in Delaware. We celebrated his birthday because he was born September 1st, and I invited all these people. It was a random birthday, but I invited all these people from his life to this birthday. He wanted to go to Rehoboth just on the spur of the moment. Like, it was like all these things that like kind of lined up that year. And when he passed, I just couldn't go back to church. Like, I met with like Pastor Beeman. I met with different people, but I couldn't go back. And that was September. On February, for my birthday, I decided I didn't want to celebrate. I was in a very dark place, and I wanted to go somewhere dark, so I went to Iceland.
Are you serious?
I went to Iceland for my birthday.
Okay.
And it was, as soon as I got there, it was quiet and cold, but it was colder here, actually. But I couldn't check into my hotel room, and so I was like walking around. I'm by myself, and I hear these church bells ring. I'm like, well, something's open. And so I wandered my way and got to this beautiful, like, historic church there. And I walked in, and they said, well, the service is in Icelandic. And I was like, well, okay. And it's a seat. So I went in, I took the program, and there was this song that in many churches I hear where they do Praise God from Whom All Blessings Flow. They were singing it in Icelandic, but I knew what it was. And I was like, oh, that's really cold. You brought me all the way to Iceland to get me to come back to church, you know? And I met a young woman from California there who, in that church, and we had coffee for my birthday, and she told me this story about silver and how the silversmith has to heat the silver really, really hot to get the impurities out. And she said, it's kind of like what you're going through. You know, you're in the fire. And ultimately, the way the silversmith knows the silver is ready is because he can see his reflection in it. And it's like, okay, breathe, you know, go back home and find your purpose. Why are you still here? So, yeah, there's anger, there's pain, there's a whole host of feelings, and they don't just go away after a certain moment. Like, literally within the course of a week. I was talking to a colleague in Congress yesterday who lost her partner for he, you know, really just tragic, sad event. And I just told her, sometimes it's the weird, random things. It's not the big holiday. It's the Sunday morning where you would be making pancakes, and you're like, that person's not here. Or it's the walking by somebody and you smell the cologne. And like, wow, that just reminded me. And I guess, you know, it's funny circling back to something that Joe Biden said to me, because there were a lot of people from Delaware who called me in the hospital, and he said this line, that there will come a day where your loved one's memory will bring a smile to your face before it brings a tear to your eye. And that was powerful for me. And that's the thing. Like, now I still cry, but I can think about like the funny and fun things that we did.
Okay, tell me something fun.
Oh my gosh. Oh man, so many things. Like, you know, first of all, we like to travel. When I met him, he was working in China. So one trip we went to the Great Wall to walk on the Great Wall. One of the guys that worked with him had planned this whole trip. We thought it was a 5-hour drive there, but it was actually, we had to walk for 5 hours. And when we were so weak that by the time they were like, now you can walk back down, or you can take this zip line across the river. We're like, zip line? I don't care if I drown. I am not walking another step. I mean, like, for days we were in pain. but he loved to dance, and I loved to dance, and he loved to, he was just really smart, so like he got me involved in things that I had never paid attention to before, like the stock market and candlesticks and things like that. Like he was just really cool. He was a Omega Psi Phi Q dog, for those of you who don't know. And so he was like this combination of smart, funny, sexy, cool, and we just lived. We lived, and I think that's the message for everybody, whether you're a parent, whether you go to work every day. Be present with people. Enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
Like right now, like I'm looking in your eyes and I'm like, yeah, this is incredible. This is, we enjoyed the moment. Like that month before, I think it was that month before or 2 months before, our last concert was the On the Run tour with Jay-Z and Beyonce.
Yes,
I gotta bring up Beyonce. This would not
yes,
be an
we
interview
have
without me talking
to.
about
Yes.
Beyonce. But it was funny. He turned me on to Jay-Z. I turned him on to Beyonce. And so that tour, it was sort of like, okay. And there's this song, Forever Young. I want to be forever young. He will forever be young to me, because that's the minute.
Oh my God, I have like goosebumps.
That I have, of Charles. And so, so just be present.
Yeah.
Love in this very moment. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Take care of this world. I think we only have one.
Right. Well,
I mean, unless you're into
I know, right,
multiple alternative universes and stuff. I don't know. Maybe, yeah. But we got to take care of it, and we got to love it. And that's really the message. That was the biggest last message I learned from him, is that we're here to love. He loved. He was loved. We're here to love. That was it, and that inspires me to do the work.
Yeah. I always think about different moments in my life and how they're like breadcrumbs that lead me to where exactly I need to be.
Totally.
So I just think about your relationship with Charles and how that was one breadcrumb that had to happen.
Exactly.
To get you to where you are right now.
Exactly.
And
all things work together for the good.
Yeah.
Even the bad stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Even the bad stuff, the good, bad, and the ugly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it all works
makes
out.
us who we are. It inspires us. It propels us. And it connects us. That's the other big lesson. It is about us realizing that when one of us is down, we are all down.
Right.
And these things, these stories, that's why, again, your platform is so important, because maybe somebody will see a connection from me to
I
them.
agree. So let's connect with this scarf that you got going on right now.
Yes.
So I'm told that you're known for your scarves.
Yes, I am.
Give us school us on the scarf game, Congresswoman.
Yeah. Okay, so first of all, I love scarves because they're versatile. As a working mom, I think that's probably when I first really got into like wearing scarves, because you can literally take one outfit and turn it into like 5 or however many. And even this week I had on this one suit that I wore in DC, and I wore it here, but I just changed the shoes and changed the scarf, and it was like, bam, a new outfit. So number one is kind of like from a utilitarian perspective. Also, I feel it's like wearable art. I really love the arts. I'm a writer. I love to dance. And I think the whole idea of creativity is another thing that connects us to our humanity. And so for me, sometimes wearing a scarf like this one is like wearable art. It's like bright and vibrant, but sometimes you feel pastel. Yeah. And then many people also know that I carry a scarf with me. This is the scarf that I carried on the day that I was sworn in, and it was actually a voter card that my sister found. My sister Thea did all this research on our family and identified it was to be our great-great-great-grandfather that was a slave. And during Reconstruction, he had, like many slaves and slave owners, had to sign an oath that would allow them to be able to vote. And this is the Returns of Qualified Voters and Reconstruction Oath.
Oh my
and
God.
His X is on the bottom. And I carried this with me on the day that I was sworn in, because I knew we were making history, and that the great-great-great-granddaughter of a slave is now the first woman and first person of color
Wow.
to represent the first state in Congress. So
Wow.
this scarf has been yeah.
Congresswoman, I mean, we could go on for days and hours. But I do want to just say thank you for coming and spending some time with me today on Peeling the Onion. But we could not wrap this up without the peeling of the onion style, okay? So I call it rapid fire. So I'm going to throw some things out to you and just your first thing that pops into your head, okay? Your favorite Beyonce song?
Love on Top.
Yes.
I love that. That's what.
Baby, it's you.
Oh my God, that has the best way, the best. It's a great message, and yeah, it's my favorite.
Okay. You talked about writing a lot.
Yes.
What would be the title of your book?
Well, that's a great question. Oh, wow. Well, you know, I wrote a book with two other women already called Thrive when I lived in China.
Oh, wow.
But the title of my book, oh, look, I'm like Love on Top. No, the title of my own book. Wow, I might have to get back to you on that one because oh, that's.
Okay, well, look, you make
what?
sure you.
I'll tell you, I have my old Delaware license plate is Be Love. And I love that because to me, it is not saying this is just about, hey, you know, this grand love, but it's like how you act, how you live, you know, so maybe it would be love. And you know, and there's this thing, you know, it's Song of Solomon, I am my beloved is mine. That's how I kind of, with Charles's, that was what I put in his program, his obituary program. But I love this concept of us not just having this romantic love, but such a deep love for the world and for each other and for ourselves that it influences every single thing that you do.
Everything.
So maybe it's Be Loved.
Be loved. Okay, because I know it's coming. I can feel it. I know it's coming. And then last two things. What do you think of when you hear Delaware?
Oh, when I hear Delaware, wow. The first thing that pops into my mind is that we're representative of the whole country. I feel like we're like a small representation of the whole country. Our counties, the beaches, the farms, the city, the demographics. We are little America. That's what I think of. Yeah.
And then the color yellow, because you're wearing it so well. When you think of yellow, what comes to mind?
Sunshine, the light. Walk in the light. I think of sunshine. I think of the light, and that you can only, that there's that saying that you can only bring light into a dark room and make it light. If you take darkness into it, it just stays dark. So I think of the light.
All right. Well, thank you again, Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester, for spending time with me peeling of the onion, not peeling on the onion, but peeling of the onion. And I look forward to us connecting again soon.
Me too. Thank you.